Hi, this is Numeric Citizen. In today's video, the last of the year, I'm going to look back at 2024 and share my expectation for 2025 and one more thing. Let's get started. 2024 was a very busy year for Craft. I could review every release. In fact, I already put together a year in review document in Craft. This is what you are seeing here. This will be shared shortly. But I want to focus on a few things that I think are worth mentioning and things that will eventually, I think, make the year 2025 a bit different than what we used to with Craft. The first thing is, I think that there was a refocus on the individual users instead of focusing on a corporate customers. And I think it's a good thing because I think a very passionate user community will probably drive better the course of a product like Craft. And by focusing on those users that are asking for different things and listening to those users will actually be better than trying to figure out a product for a more corporate world. And so I think this is one of the things that we saw during the year, and especially when the Craft 3.0 was announced, and when we look at all the marketing materials that has been released to go with this release, I think we can clearly see that the Craft team is now really focusing on individual users instead of big companies. And I think it's a good thing overall. Speaking of users, there's a change also regarding the way the user community is being handled by the Craft team. And the first thing we have to remember is the closure of the Circle community that was created last year, so that the Craft team can focus on Reddit and also on Slack communities instead, which are typically more interactive. It's a lot noisy though, but I think it's a choice they made, and I think it's a good thing overall. The other thing I want to mention is regarding the roadmap. There is no actual published roadmap of Craft, but they are sharing a lot of details during the year about where they want to go for upcoming releases. It's not a formal document that people could go and read, but from time to time they will share some news or short posts on Slack and on Reddit telling the people, the user community, where they want to go next. And they're asking also a lot of feedback to help influence and make the roadmap more in line with the user base. And so I think the openness of about this is a lot. It makes a lot of difference because we as users are better. We can better see what's coming, and if we can trust the road ahead, and for that I think it's a good move by the developers of Craft. The other thing that's worth mentioning is a more systematic beta program where the Craft team will release beta released through Apple Test Flight, so that a small group of people can put their hands on a development version of Craft and provide feedback. And I think overall this openness to share betas and share roadmap is a good indication that the Craft team is more open and are listening to people who are asking those things for a long time. And this is what they provided in 2024. When I look back at 2024, we can see that there's the first part where the attention was more on the iPhone to undo a few things that were kind of broken, like the navigation, which kind of put a lot of people upset with the iPhone experience. And the second part of like the fall of 2024 was the release of Craft 3.0 and the addition of collections, better task management, and also craft styling are very important features that will, I think they will be defining what of 2025 is in front of us. Those features are certainly not perfect. There's a lot of work that needs to be done in order to provide better user experience, more flexibility, and also regarding task management. I think that it's a good addition for some people, but I'm kind of afraid that this addition of task management in Craft will divert some attention away from other areas that are, I think, at the core of the Craft experience and the Craft mission itself, which is helping user create and share beautiful and meaningful documents with the rest of their team, the world, and so this is something I think that might be to watch for the next year. But overall, I think 2024 was really a shift for Craft, and it's a good thing overall for the Craft users community. Just before switching to 2025, there's a few more thoughts I want to share. I think that the overall the Craft experience feels a little bit more buggy than it used to be, and I think that it's something that might be expected for software that is getting more feature put into it. So this is something to watch, and I'm seeing that myself. Some bugs are very minor and are only kind of hindering the user experience in small ways, but some other bugs are pretty much serious, and I think that the Craft team should pay attention to those bugs. I see a lot of reports in the Slack community or even on Reddit with bugs that are being submitted, and from each version of Craft, there's the same bugs are still there. I won't go into details here, but it suffice to say that if you pay attention to what's happening in these user communities, you'll see that there's a few things and instabilities that needs to be addressed in the future. The other thing that I want to mention is that, as you probably already know, and I'll share that in the video notes, I'm maintaining myself a wish list for Craft, and I've been doing that like for 2 years. And even with all those new features and releases that we've got in 2024, my wish list is pretty much intact. There's very few things that has been checked off the lists of this wish list, and I wonder if this is something that I should think about, if my expectations are too high, or if I'm not using the right product after all. I don't know, but this is something that I was kind of thinking this week when I was thinking about creating this video. Yeah, so the wish list is still there, and I have a lot of things that needs to be addressed in Craft, and you can look at the list yourself if you want. Now it's time to talk about next year, 2025. The first thing I want to mention is that it's already written in a few posts by the Craft team. The tags are actually coming in 2025. Tags has been requested for like 2 years, or even since the beginning of Craft. Myself, I do expect to I do want them to come to Craft. The thing is that something that we'll need to watch is how tags are implemented on the first release. There's many ways we can think about implementing tags and what we can do once tags are available. Like having a smart folders that goes with tags would be a nice thing. I think that the craft team should try to uh, look at what Apple is doing with Apple Notes. This is something that is really interesting from a user perspective. Also, they should look at how Bear, the text editor that is also offering tags support. So don't try to reinvent the wheel. Other people, other products has been offering tags for a long time. And so unless there's a really, really novel way of implementing tags in craft, I think they should maybe find inspiration into into others' products. The other thing that needs that I want to look for in the next year is better user feedback management. I don't know if you remember that, but I created in the past a feature request board that is the unofficial request board that I created using the Canny.io platform. It's shown here. It's not used very much, but I think it's a good way to manage user feedback in the user community instead of relying on a bunch of posts in Slack, which is not holding information more than 90 days. And so I think that's something that Craft should be considering and officially launching next year. I even invited them to take over the board that I have created if they want, and I'll give them all the keys required to access and manage it. So if you're listening, guys, just reach me. So I think this is something that they should really consider. The third thing that I think is really important for the future of the platform itself is to offer APIs. APIs is a way to interact with a system backend in order to do things like querying or listing objects or interacting with objects with a programming language. There's a lot of things going on each platforms who are offering APIs because there's also always a developer community around APIs that will push the product further in new territories. And I think that if Craft were to offer APIs, it will mark another shift for the Craft platform itself. The other thing that I want to see in the next year is better content formatting, more flexibility. The reason is if you look at every Craft documents that are shared with the world, it's pretty easy to recognize that those documents has been created with Craft because there's a visual language that only Craft is providing. And for me, it's a sign of limitations. And if they were to introduce more flexibility in the way we position the content on a page, like introducing support for columns or better image handling or a more flexible coloring schema, I think it would provide users with more flexibility and allow them to be really sharing unique, visually distinctive content on the web. And so this is, I think, something that that I'm certainly looking forward. The other thing is in this area of generative AI, I'm hoping that just like Apple is doing with Apple Intelligence, this should provide a way to use our own generative AI backend and like providing users a way to use their API's keys to use the ChatGPT service, for example, instead of relying to the provided backend by the Craft team. So again, this would provide more flexibility to the software and would allow more different workflows and use cases with generative AI and all the content that people are putting into Craft. The last thing that I want to see is regarding I think how we can trust the application, and something is to fix all those long-standing bugs that we often hear about in the user community. So let's fix those bugs and help people build trust with the software. This is really something that is very important. And the last thing that I want to mention is regarding the data mobility. This is something that is very important to be able to allow users to export their data from a Craft without losing too much information. And I think that as I'm recording this video, there's a lot to be done in Craft to better achieve this data mobility goal. And this is something that I'm really looking forward in 2025. Now, for the last part of this video, I want to talk about my personal projects that are related to Craft. I have a lot of ideas for what's coming next in 2025. When I'm working in Craft and I'm kind of interacting with users in the Craft community, my goal is to help other people to better take advantage of Craft in their personal use cases or in their workflows. And so I want to continue in the next year to provide that. And one of the ways I can achieve that is to the first thing I was thinking about doing is creating a YouTube streaming session where I would ask people to gather around a streaming session where I could just like a Q&A where people could ask questions and I would try to answer them to the best of my knowledge. This is something that I'm considering doing. And the other thing I want to put together next year is an online course where I already have my course outline that has been done. I know it will be at least a 3 parts course, and it will probably be offered as a paid resource because the first thing to know is that putting a course together requires a lot of work, and this is not my my day job. It's a hobby for me, and I think that working on such resource does require a lot of time, and I think that it's reasonable to ask for some money in exchange. So I'm still thinking about that, but really I would like to make this happen next year. And the last thing I want to talk about, and this is the one more thing I was talking about in the video introduction. I'm still working on the Craft Bible. I've been working on that like for more than a year. It was introduced in 2023. It's available as a subscription via Gumroad, and this is the actual page that you are seeing there. I'm going to do a few changes for the Craft Bible starting today. The first thing is that I'm introducing a new subscription tier, which will be shorter. It will be a 1-month subscription. So if you want to subscribe only for a few months or 1 month, then you can do that. It will be a little bit cheaper. And the other thing I want to introduce is the fact that each subscription will now include a 1-week free trial. So it means that you can have the leisure to look at the content and see how it fits. And if you want to continue subscribing, then you can do so. This is the first time I'm doing that, and it is for a limited period. So until the end of the year, every new subscriber will get a 1-week free trial with full access to the Bible itself. So I hope that people will take advantage of that and maybe continue subscribing either to show support for my work or to see the content that I'm currently working on. One of the things is that I'm going to share the year in review within the Craft Bible itself. It won't be available publicly unless you subscribe. The other thing that I want to share is a more detailed, a more critical view of where craft is heading. And this will be also shared only via the Craft Bible subscription. So yeah, that's it for this video. I hope that you like this video. I hope that you will enjoy the Craft Bible subscription for those who stay until the very end of this video. Thanks for watching there. Thanks for subscribing to my YouTube channel. And I see you guys for the next video in 2025.